And hello and welcome to Open, the show opening the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Daren, Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough and New York City. Coming up, we'll discuss respiratory syncytial virus and what symptoms people can look out for. And then we'll talk about how one organization is providing services for homeless New Yorkers. And later, we'll learn about one not-for-profit organization serving residents of surrounding communities in the Bronx and northern Manhattan through education. And then finally, we'll meet an organization that is assisting people who are blind and visually impaired of all ages to help to lead them to lead independent and active lives. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. We're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm Daren Jaime. You are now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers to Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is being broadcast simultaneously on the MNN channel. You can stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at BronxNet TV, and we look forward to having you. Well, some things have been going on throughout the past week. We'll take you through it with some Bronx updates. We start with business news. The Bronx Cooperative Development Initiative joined Black-led organizations Ujima Boston and Black Farmer Fund to host the Bronx Futures, a cooperative economies and community wealth building panel. Our BronxNet reporter Sanji Lopez has more details.
The Bronx Cooperative Development Initiative joined fellow Black-led organizations Ujima Boston and Black Farmer Fund to hold Bronx Futures, a cooperative economies and community wealth building panel at Sankofa House in Mott Haven.
Today is an event about Bronx Futures, the future type of economy we need, one that's centered on racial justice and community wealth building, where the community has ownership, governance, and self-determination. And part of today's panel is that economy is already here. We have some incredible worker owners, as well as an incredible venue that represents that type of values and economy.
I'm happy to, partner with Bronxites and people that live in the community, from the community, and really have a passion for driving and elevating those who live amongst us up. So, Sankofa is an African proverb, which means go back and get it. So that's what we're all doing. That's our mission right now, is just to bring the knowledge that we have, the experience that we have, and share with the people that we love.
The panel featured 3 Bronx-bred speakers who discussed building community power and wealth through worker-owned cooperatives, which are growing organizations owned and run jointly by its members.
As a worker owner, I really want to let people know that they can own a business, it's possible, and they should own their labor as much as they can, and really think about building new futures.
Collectivism, being communal, that's not abstract to any of our communities. But because of colonialism and imperialism and capitalism has been mostly forgotten. So I think cooperative economies and the solidarity economy in general give us an opportunity to remember who we are.
The Bronx has a large, long cooperative history, from Co-op City to Malcolm and Housing to the Black Panther Party to the Young Lords. We've been doing cooperative enterprises since the day one that we've been on this mainland of the United States.
Worker-owned cooperatives are really important. They're at the heart of the social fabric of our community, and they should be at the heart of the economy. And today's panel represents that we are the customers, right? We are the customers for those businesses, and if we support them both with our dollars as well as with our message, amplify them, share them, visit them, make them feel valued and make them feel important, people will see not only is it a place to do business, but they'll see that it is at the heart of the social part of our Bronx.
The theme of the panel was Black is More Than Enough, to highlight the historic power of solidarity and group economics within Black communities like the Bronx.
The Bronx is right now the second largest Black community in New York City. And so there's a lot of, and there's a very specific type of black community where it comes from all over the diaspora. You know, we have Dominicans, we have people from the African continent, we have folks from the traditional Deep South. And so with all that, we bring so much technological knowledge, so much cultural history, so much resilience, you know what I'm saying, to our communities. So it's time for us to, like the panel says, you know, cooperate and coordinate, bring all those traditions alive.
To find out more about worker-owned cooperatives and the Bronx Future Series, visit bcdi.nyc. Reporting for BronxNet, Sanji Lopez.
And thank you, Sanji. That's all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We'll take a quick break, but we do have more open when we return.
Hey, boss. Okay?
I said I'm fine.
Me the bed, see you in the morning. With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost it.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.
You can now watch MNN, Brick TV, QPTV, and SIC TV on BronxNet. Tune in to BX Omni, Channel 67 Optimum, 2133 Fios during most Sunday evenings. We'll show you some amazing content from our friends at Manhattan Neighborhood Network, Brick TV in Brooklyn, Queens Public Television, and Staten Island Community Television. Every borough represented in the Boogie Down. Epic partnerships for the ages. And catch our new Next channel, produced in partnership with MNN, 24/7 on BronxNet Channel 952 Optimum and 2138 Fios.
STEM is everywhere. Like here, behind the scenes of The Walking Dead.
When we break down clothes, we tumble it with sodium phosphate, rock salt, and dish detergent.
We stitched together images of our model and created a 3D set that can be walked through in a VR headset.
We're able to turn 12 walkers into 1,000 walker hordes.
STEM can create new worlds on and off the screen. What will you make with STEM? Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, backpack kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
And welcome back. Hospitals and healthcare workers are being pushed to the max in New York as the triple-demic leads to a surge of flu, COVID, and respiratory syncytial virus cases, better known as RSV. Now, RSV is a common respiratory virus harmful to very young children, older adults, or those born preterm or with underlying lung conditions. The question is, what are the signs and symptoms that people should be aware of when it comes to RSV? We sat down with the pediatric hospitalist at the Children's Hospital at Montefiore, Dr. Alyssa Silver, to discuss more.
Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to have you. And so we're going to laugh a little bit. So when we talk about this word RSV and the RSV virus, a little hard to pronounce, but can you break that down for us? What exactly is the RSV virus?
Yes, so RSV, or the respiratory syncytial virus, is a virus that is kind of like a common cold for many people. However, it does cause a lot of mucus production and some swelling in the airways. And so especially in those who are very young, tiny babies, where those airways are very small, it causes a lot of difficulty breathing as that mucus kind of obstructs those airways, and the swelling can lead to difficulty in breathing as well. Similarly, in those who are older, have other kind of medical conditions, it can affect them as well.
When we talk about babies, we hear the babies contract this. How is it the babies go about contracting this?
So the same way as any other cold. So if you're around someone who has RSV, who might cough or sneeze, it's kind of transmitted by respiratory droplets in that way. Similarly, if you touch something that someone else has kind of just sneezed and touched something, that can also help transmit the viruses. And so when we think about babies and young children, it's very easy, especially in those who have siblings that are school aged or or if babies are in daycare where there's a lot of learning to share, they're also sharing their viruses in that way as well.
Yeah. And so when we look at this, is this contagious?
Yes. So it can be very contagious if you're around somebody else who has the virus. And like I said, older people who are healthy, so adults or older children generally don't have a whole lot of symptoms other than maybe common cold symptoms. So it can be easily contagious if they are, near their younger baby sister or brother and they go and give them a kiss or just kind of cough in the area near them where they're not exhibiting a lot of symptoms in the older child, but then it can make the baby very sick. So it is very contagious. And again, because there's so much mucus production generally associated with it, any of that coughing, sneezing that goes along with those types of viruses can help transmit that.
Yeah. And so, as a doctor, how do you go about treating those who are affected with this virus?
So unfortunately, we wish there's no magic medicine for RSV, and we wish there were
Wow.
because so many babies are affected by this. It's really just what we call supportive care, or kind of helping babies through getting through the virus and getting over it until they get better. So sometimes because they get so congested, they have difficulty feeding. And so a lot of times young babies will get dehydrated. So we often need to give them fluids or feed them, their formula through a nasogastric tube, a tube that goes from their nose down to their belly. And then other ways that we sort of help get them through this virus is by helping to get rid of some of that congestion. So helping to suction out some of the mucus from their nose. Sometimes with all the inflammation that goes along with it, babies will also have so much inflammation in their lungs that their oxygen levels go down. So sometimes we'll need to give them oxygen. And sometimes they have so much difficulty breathing that then they need further support for their breathing. So things such as a special kind of oxygen delivery called high flow nasal cannula, where it actually gives a little bit of pressure to help babies breathe more comfortably. And kind of we can escalate from there to other types of non-invasive ventilation. And then the most extreme being when babies need to be intubated and have an endotracheal tube and a ventilator to help them breathe.
Amazing. Talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing right now from your side. Are we seeing a lot of babies in your area being affected?
Yeah, we've definitely had a lot of babies hospitalized with RSV this season. I've been at the Children's Hospital for 14 years here at Montefiore, and this is definitely one of the worst seasons that we've had in terms of the number of children that are affected and hospitalized, as well as the severity of the baby's presentations to the hospital. There's probably only one other winter that was almost as bad, but I think this sort of tops it in the time that I've been here.
Yeah. As alarming as it is, I think a parent that's out there watching says, well, what can I do? How can I best serve my child in helping to prevent possibly this from occurring?
Yeah, so it's really the basic things that were extra highlighted during our times of the pandemic, where the best things you can do are good hand washing and trying not to, make sure you're not touching things that then you can contaminate and transmit the virus to your baby. Anyone with a very young baby should obviously not have them around, newborns shouldn't be around anybody who's sick in general. It gets really hard when the person who's sick is a sibling or someone else that lives in the household, but you just try to do the best that you can to limit, coughing, sneezing, anything like that around the baby. Other things that actually help that are not necessarily just related to transmission, but it's actually been shown that breastfeeding continues to help protect babies against more severe disease with RSV. And so even if the mom is sick, trying to limit exposure as much as you can, but actually even continuing to breastfeed is actually really good for the baby. While even if the mom has RSV or another virus, the maternal antibodies in the breast milk actually help provide some protection to the baby. And then other things like limiting, which we should always try to do, is limiting tobacco smoke exposure around young kids, because actually that exposure, which gives them difficulty breathing in general, can make it even harder for babies with RSV to breathe.
Yeah. So we've got COVID-19 out there. We've got the flu out there. We've got RSV out there. And people are not trying to navigate all three. But how do you break down the difference, or how can a person possibly potentially break down the difference between what is RSV, what is COVID-19, what is the flu?
Yeah, it actually is pretty difficult to discern some of them just with symptoms and way that babies present. So really the only way to determine is to test for which virus it is. In most cases, it doesn't necessarily matter, especially for young babies, if it's a presentation of flu or COVID or RSV, because a lot of the treatment can be the same, although we know that there are certain medicines that can help treat, especially the more vulnerable who have the flu or COVID. But RSV is just kind of supporting them through it. But a lot of the symptoms can overlap and be the same. So you can have fever, cough, congestion, and especially in young babies, their symptoms don't always follow the same patterns that, say, an older child or an adult might follow.
So we got the situation now where, a lot of places are mask optional. Some people we don't find wearing masks at all. And others have opted to wear. How do masks really play into all of this?
Yeah, so masks definitely would protect you from RSV, from transmitting it. It's something that, overall we have to try to get past the pandemic as much as we can. But, as recommended, especially for those who are particularly vulnerable, have some kind of immunocompromised state, have a young baby with them, wearing a mask is a way to prevent transmitting many different viruses, not just RSV and COVID and the flu. So it's a situation where, I would go along with using your best judgment, in terms of, especially if you're going to be in a crowded place where others might be sick and you might be on the more vulnerable population, then you might want to wear a mask.
Yeah. And so what's the best advice that you have for parents right now, given the fact that this is out there, you're pretty busy these days, and of course you would like to get a little vacation from this, but I know it's kind of hard. But what can you tell parents right now that would really give them some helpful advice?
Yeah, I think, trying to do the best you can with limiting exposure to people who are sick, doing good hand washing, hand sanitizers, that sort of thing. Trying to avoid being in big groups, which is, I know, really hard this time of year with all the holiday events going on. But especially if you know that somebody is sick, trying to avoid being around them if you have a young baby. And then watching out for signs and symptoms, especially in babies, that they could be progressing from what may be appearing like a common cold to more severe symptoms. So things you can do if your baby does have a lot of congestion, so things just like saline drops or saline spray in the nose, along with suctioning out. So there's various different types of suction devices on the market now, in addition to the traditional bulb suction. But also just kind of making sure that they're drinking really well to stay hydrated. If you notice that they're not eating great, that's okay for a couple days, but as long as they're drinking. And we like to kind of give a guideline for parents so that they know when it looks like babies aren't drinking enough. So if it looks like, in young babies, they're going more than 6 hours to 8 hours without a wet diaper, that's a sign they might be getting dehydrated. In, babies over 1, if they're going more than 8 hours, that would be a sign that they might be getting dehydrated. So kind of looking at that to gauge, looking at how much urine they're making helps to gauge if they look like they're getting dry and might need some extra fluids. If you notice your baby is kind of starting to breathe hard and fast, where you see their ribs going in and out or see their nostrils flaring in and out, that's a sign that something's not good and you'd want to bring them into the an urgent care or an emergency room.
Yeah. Long-term effects. I want to have a moment before we close to talk about the long-term effects, because many times we wonder about these things. Is there a long-term effect if a baby contracts RSV?
So the younger you are when you get RSV, so especially in the first 6 months of life, there is a slight increased risk of developing asthma later on. Same with all kids under 2, but especially the earlier on. And then that risk increases even more, especially if there are other factors that would already increase your risk of asthma. So if you have a family history of asthma, or if you have other things that tend to go along with asthma, like eczema or other allergies that tend to increase your risk, RSV may make that a little bit more likely to develop later on.
Yeah. Dr. Alyssa Silva, I want to thank you so much for taking the time and sharing with us a little bit about RSV. One more thing before we go, give us some final thoughts.
I think really I would have to say is just try your best to wash hands. Don't be around those coughing in your face. That's really the main thing. And I hope everybody stays healthy.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you want more information, thank you for joining us. First, again, thank you for joining us. I think the information is tremendously helpful. For myself, wasn't so familiar with RSV, but now I walk away with a deeper understanding and even a better way of learning how to pronounce it. So thank you so much for being with us and letting us know about RSV. But I want our viewers to know, if you want more information, please don't hesitate to visit the website, cham.org, and then follow them on Facebook at Montefiore Medical Center. We do have more show coming up. Don't go anywhere. Open continues right after this.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
¿Qué color? Perfecto, mijo.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Punch down time for dinner.
Oh, terrific.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Man, it's lonely. Like, going through life lonely.
There is the therapeutic aspect of music, just expressing how you feel. I'm going to talk to Howie about his feelings, make it into a song.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
And welcome back. Neighborhood Coalition for Shelter helps New Yorkers who are struggling with homelessness to achieve their highest level of independence. They create innovative solutions and engage community partners to provide housing and support that can transform lives. Joining us to share more details, we've got the Chief Executive Officer of Neighborhood Coalition for Shelter, Ann L. Shalof. And glad to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And as I think about the holidays, I think about the winter season, we know the homeless is front and center because this is an underserved population that sometimes find themselves very challenged but you find yourself dealing with them very much on a day-to-day basis. Share with us a little bit about where we are right now with regards to homelessness and how you see it.
Well, I think right now we're really at a moment of crisis with respect to homelessness. Homelessness is, I believe, at its highest rate since we started tracking those numbers. And it's been exacerbated by so many factors. After COVID, the lifting of the eviction moratorium, the influx of migrants from down south, I think we're really at a time where it's at its most extreme.
Yeah. Well, Neighborhood Coalition for Shelter does great work with the homeless population. For those who don't know about the shelter, please give us some information about what you do and who you serve.
We provide a combination of supportive housing and non-residential services. So we operate two, and actually a third just opened, but two supportive residences. One houses individuals who've been chronically homeless, and there they can find permanent housing along with the on-site supports that will help them live there stably. So we have all sorts of social services there. Social workers can provide recreation, benefits counseling, mental health counseling or access to mental health counseling, medication monitoring, and a host of other services. We also have another residence in the Bronx for young adults who've either aged out of foster care with nowhere to go or who've been homeless and suffer from a mental illness or substance use disorder. And there our goal is to really place them in housing where they can stay as long as they need to until they're ready to transition to adulthood and independence. We also just recently, in the last few weeks, opened a residence for homeless college students. These are students who were going to school while they were living in shelter or in illegal unheated apartments or sleeping on the train or somebody's couch. And our goal there is to really help them be able to live stably and complete their degrees so they no longer need our help. Yeah. In terms of non-residential services, we have a substance use clinic that is specifically for people who are homeless. They can be on the street, they can be in shelter, they can be in supportive housing. And our goal there is really to help them make whatever changes they're ready and able to make. As you can imagine, I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to just cut in and talk about that because when you talk about the various populations, you talk about a college population, you talked about different groups of people. But when we look at the homeless today, I think there's a difference between what we traditionally would view in some people's minds as homeless. You talked about homeless college students. We talked about homeless families. We're not talking about just, down and destitute, the ones that we've always heard about. Really what we're seeing and the emergence of homelessness are just everyday people who've just struggled upon hard times.
That's exactly right. There are misconceptions about who are, quote unquote, the homeless. I think we're all familiar with the person that we see, in a doorway muttering to himself or herself. And that is the most vulnerable individual. And that's what many of us see and associate with homelessness. And those are people who are very much in need of help and very hard to help. But the overwhelming majority of people who are homeless are not those people. And I believe if my data is up to date, something close to a third of homeless families have a working family member. So we don't think about the homeless as somebody who might be commuting with you to work or sitting next to you, in the library in college. But many, many people are, just a paycheck away or an illness away from being homeless.
Yeah. So 40 years, you've been doing the work. There's a 40th anniversary. As you look at the 40th anniversary, how do you feel?
I feel great pride Of course, I wasn't here 40 years ago, but very proud of this organization and our founders who saw the challenge of homelessness. These were faith and community leaders on the Upper East Side who saw people literally sleeping on their steps and said, this cannot be, we have to do something. And so these organizations, at the time, all volunteers, banded together and established our organization. And it gives me great pride that we continue the tradition of helping our neighbors and of developing innovative solutions and not being afraid to tackle a challenge. At the same time, I feel that it's incredibly tragic that now that I'm leading this organization, I look around and I think the situation is only worse. I don't think our founders ever imagined that 40 years later, our work would be needed more than ever, and that so little progress in some ways would have been made.
Yeah. I think about my time here and how we've covered homelessness, and it definitely has gotten to a place where the numbers continue to rise. And as the more you have New Yorkers moving, and you see some people who are actually moving out, can't afford living in the city. And then you've got other people who are just struggling on hard times and can't maintain rent. And before you know it, they really have nowhere to go. When you look at your population, how do you get the numbers that you get in terms of reaching people? Because I do understand you have a CHIRP program, and I probably want you to speak to that too, about how the referrals come to you, that you're able to meet the needs of so many people.
Well, I'm very happy to speak about the CHIRP program, and we've actually renamed it NCS Connect, and I'll talk about how we connect in just a moment. Our referrals, though, more and more are coming through a centralized process in the city that is designed to identify the most vulnerable people who are awaiting housing and connect them with appropriate supportive housing. What we do is supportive housing, which is distinct from affordable housing in general, in that we provide services to people who have an identified need, whether it's a mental illness or a substance use disorder. So people are identified through city agencies and referred to us as being eligible and meeting the requirements to live in our residences. The CHIRP program, Community Human Services Information and Referral Program, is designed to be a program that has no barriers and that can provide resources and information to people who might otherwise not connect with any social services. So we send a social worker to free dinner programs. We generally operate the program on the Upper East Side, where we were founded. It was on hiatus during COVID, but is just now coming back to in-person services. And our social worker is there to answer questions, provide advice, referrals, guidance to anybody. You don't even have to give your name. So somebody who may be undocumented or may have a mental illness that makes them afraid to interact with somebody who's official can come to us, ask a question, ask for help, and you don't have to give us any other information, and we will try to connect you with the services that you need. So that is a service that we really feel is designed in some ways to be a first step in helping people connect with resources. And our social worker, certainly before COVID and now that in-person meal programs are resuming, will be at a different site each night and will become a familiar figure so that more and more he or she can connect with people there, and people will be willing to approach and ask for help.
Yeah. And Shalof, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. The great work that you're doing and really helping a population that really in this time needs as much service as possible because, as we know, winter's upon us, the cold weather's upon us, and more and more people are actually out on the streets. Thanks for the work that you're doing. And Shalof, Chief Executive Officer for Neighborhood Coalition for Shelter. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty. Well, if you want more information, what we do is we encourage you to visit their website. Now, the website is ncsinc.org. Again, ncsinc.org. And then you can also follow them on Facebook at Neighborhood Coalition for Shelter. Don't go anywhere. We've got more show coming up. Open. We'll be right back right after this.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Thank you so much.
Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Man, it's lonely. Like, going through life lonely.
There is the therapeutic aspect of music, just expressing how you feel. I'm going to talk to Howie about his feelings, make it into a song.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Feel the beat of nature at a park or forest near you. Find a forest and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org.
And welcome back. Eastside House Settlement is one of New York City's oldest not-for-profit social service organizations, expanding opportunities to live more fulfilling lives through education, career, and supportive services. Joining us to tell us more, we've got details of, join us to share more of the details. We've got the Executive Director of Eastside House Settlement, Daniel Diaz. And Daniel, good to have you with us.
I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you sharing. And, there's a lot of programs that you have over there at Eastside that really benefit the community. So for somebody who may not be so familiar, let's give us a little bit about Eastside first.
Eastside House Settlement is an old settlement house. We've been around since 1891. Our youngest participant is 18 months, and our oldest participant is about 98 years old. So we like to say we serve from twinkle to wrinkle. And with that, our main bread and butter, if you will, is education and workforce development. We believe that those two work in hand in order to get our families and community members into the economic mainstream and then help them stay there.
When we talk about getting people to the next level, obviously high school is a great challenge. I know that there's some work that you do in terms of helping people with their high school equivalency. Tell us about the program.
So we have a bunch of programs that are second chance, third chance. Some may even view them as last chance programs for people to earn their high school credential. So we have schools for young people who have been left back at least once or twice before they even get past the 9th grade. And we have those for transfer school programs. We have evening school programs. And then we have, of course, the GED programs for getting people back on track. All of those pathways can lead them on to our post-secondary pathways programs, which get them into better places in college, higher education, training program certifications, and ultimately getting them a job.
In the work that you do, talk to me about your impact, because you've seen a tremendous amount of people who've actually come through your doors and have left with better lives and better quality of life.
Well, absolutely. We love that the motivation comes from within the people that we work with. We can't do it without their motivation. And so every single year, we're placing at least 500 to 600 people in work. We usually have about 1,000 graduates from all of our high school programs, of which about 60% or so go on to post-secondary and college, and about another 30% go on to earn certifications that are workforce ready. So about 90% of our participants altogether go on to work or higher education, which we believe benefits them to get into the economic mainstream.
As you look in your community, obviously the needs are great, the needs are many. What do you determine to be some of the more paramount needs that you're finding amongst those that you serve?
Some of the things that we're seeing now have to do with a lot of safety issues in the community. There's a lot of people who are fearful for what's coming down the pipe in the Mott Haven area of the South Bronx. There are individuals who in the community are still struggling with food insecurity, which we're trying to combat with our Harvest to Haven program, which provides healthy meals for families in the community. And so food and safety are still some of the biggest concerns here in the South Bronx.
And as you look at the South Bronx, obviously you've seen a lot of great revitalization. We know what it used to be in years past. And what does it feel like for you to be a part of the revitalization, particularly for residents who are out there who definitely have needs, and you're able to meet so many of them?
Oh, we're just glad to see that people are finally paying attention to the Bronx and the South Bronx, if you will. You know, we've been here quite a long time in the South Bronx, and we believe that our families have the same goals and dreams and hopes for their kids as everybody does for their kids, for them to be in a better place and do great things in their lives. And we're just happy to be a part of that. We're happy that the community believes in us. We believe in our community. We call our young people the closet geniuses. All they need is somebody to work alongside them, and their genius shines.
Talk about workforce development. We know that so many of our young people are underskilled, and sometimes when it comes to getting that next job or going to the next level, they don't necessarily have that skill set. But what are you finding when it comes to workforce development in your doors that young people are taking advantage of and families are taking advantage of? Because we know that everybody wants to get a better quality of life, a better income, but sometimes in order to do better, in order to get better, you got to do better.
Absolutely. I think in our post-secondary pathways program, we've seen a lot of interest in our healthcare partnerships. So young people can come in, they can get the training that they need in working in the areas of EKG, phlebotomy, CNA, and we have the partnerships to then get them the jobs in those fields. And, you know, getting those skills that have been dormant for so long and have not been nurtured, especially during the pandemic, we've been able to really bring our workforce development to another level as young people come in, they get their certifications, they're stackable, so then they can then be used in order to get the jobs and then keep the jobs in the future.
And so as you go into the year 2023, talk to me about your goals and your objectives, anything that you set your sights on for next year?
Absolutely. So we are opening up our commercial kitchen. Our commercial kitchen will be on 139th Street and Bruckner Boulevard. It is a new sector for us. We're believing that a lot of our young people and their families can learn how to work in the kitchen, get their food handler certification, and then help to feed their own communities. We've seen that the kitchen really does not care where you came from. The kitchen only cares that you can chop and cook that food really well. And we're going to be able to get that out. Our commercial kitchen should be open and starting in April 2023.
Amazing things there. And when you talk about commercial kitchen, it opens the door for a lot of opportunity, huh?
Yes, the commercial kitchen is going to be 8,000 square feet. It's a huge kitchen. It's a teaching kitchen. And what it opens the door for is local restaurants to really get involved. We're looking for some celebrity chef type work as well. So our young people are really going to be primed to be in the food industry.
You got to try my peanut butter and jelly, man. It's really good.
I love peanut butter and jelly, but no, we're not talking about just peanut butter and jelly. We may have to make our own peanut butter for that.
I hear you, man. I know. Listen, but I want to tell you, thank you so much for the work that you're doing over there at Eastside Settlement House. Before we leave, if there's anything you want to share with us.
Well, we're just happy to continue our work. We're happy for all the support that we've had over the years. And, programs like this, thank you for having us on to share a little bit about what we do.
All righty. Well, Daniel Diaz, it's been great having you here, Executive Director of Eastside House Settlement, and pleasure talking to you, brother.
All right. You too. You take care.
All right. Have a happy holiday. All right. Well, listen, if you want more information, visit their website, eastsidehouse.org. And, of course, follow them on Instagram at eastsidehouseinc. Don't go anywhere. We've got more open coming up right after this.
So much.
Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Feel the beat of nature at a park or forest near you. Find a forest and music inspired by nature at discovertheforest.org.
¿Qué color? Perfecto, mijo.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is me? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, backpack kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutVaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
And we are back. Vision services for the blind and visually impaired is a not-for-profit rehabilitational and social service organization developing and implementing individualized programs to assist people who are blind and visually impaired of all ages to lead independent and active lives. And joining us now, we've got the Director of Career Services at Vision Services, Deanna Calamusa, and we thank you, Deanna, for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your work is very special when you deal with those who have been with the area of vision. I want to talk a little bit because January is Braille Literacy Month, and for most people who may not be so familiar, talk to us about how January is important to you.
Sure. So as you know, we serve legally blind and visually impaired individuals from all ages. And Braille Literacy Month is important because for many of our clients, this is their primary method of written communication. Braille is not the only method. I would say now that there are new technologies out there, many of our individuals communicate with different types of technology, not just Braille, but again, just having a month to really celebrate and show the importance of this communication method is super important for all of our individuals and also to educate the general public.
Yeah. And so when you talk about educating the public, what's it been like for you getting the word out and letting people know about Braille and the work that goes on with Vision Services?
So in terms of us reaching out, we've had really great success, and we're lucky to work with really understanding and accommodating partners who want to get the word out there. We really utilize social media a lot, and just our kind of general community that we've grown over the years and been able to do outreach with. We're always having events, whether they're in person or virtual, to really accommodate the individuals that we serve and to get the word out there. So we've been fortunate and had really great success.
And I know some of the work that you also do is catered around workforce development. That seems to be a popular theme, but it's work that's near and dear to you too.
Yes. So in terms of workforce development, I work on a team of 6, and the goal of our department is to prepare our legally blind clients to enter or re-enter the workforce. We have a really important common goal of making sure that our clients are successful and helping them with applying for jobs, identifying jobs that are commensurate with their interests, their skills, and their education. We've actually been #1 in job placement in our area for, I believe, 6 years running. So that's something that we're super proud of and is really important to us.
Congratulations there. And I want to talk about that workforce. And as people are going into the workforce, we talked about also being Braille Awareness Month. When it comes to Braille in the workforce, what are we finding? Are we finding that a lot of people are taking advantage of Braille, or is there still some work that needs to be done?
I think that it's really dependent on the individual. Now that there are different types of accommodations and technologies out there, not all of our clients are Braille users. Many of them use other assistive technologies, voiceover, and other, features that will help them communicate and, use written communication in the workplace. So I would say it's really dependent on the individual and what their skill set is and what method they choose to use. But in terms of making sure that employers are on board and open, we also assist with identifying accommodations. So in some cases that may be, creating Braille documents for our consumers. Some of that could be making sure that PDFs and things that are electronic are accessible. So again, we've had really great success, really open employers that we've worked with and other businesses. And so it really just depends on the client and what their method is.
I've heard a lot about the things that go on with Braille. Having a father, who was blind for many years and had to deal with Braille as a means to communicate. But I was totally shocked when I heard this one, that Braille is available for the feet.
That I am not that familiar with. So you are introducing that to me, but I think that's a really interesting concept as well.
Yeah, well, what they're talking about is Braille is available for the feet. And when people ask you what it's about, businesses are going to have to meet the standards with the American Disabilities Act. And in addition, you walk out of a store in a restaurant and you see that yellow tape out there, that's Braille for the feet. That's what some people say. And of course, that's one of the ways that we could see some modifications that are actually being made. Talk to me about these modifications nowadays. Are you finding that more and more people are becoming accessible? We know that the American with Disabilities Act created a lot of traction, but are you getting the traction that you need and able to deal with those who are blind and also legally impaired?
Yes. So as you mentioned, Braille for the feet and kind of those yellow marks that you see outside on the street, that is something that it's not everywhere. And especially being in such a populated area like New York City, there definitely needs to be more of that around just for the safety and awareness of the individuals and others that we serve. But in terms of accessibility, I think it's something that is always ever changing. And I think that we have seen an increase in openness and changes, but I think it's something that employers and companies and businesses over time just need to continue to adapt to and grow. So I will say we have seen an increase, but there's always more that we can do as a community.
Deanna, can you tell me a little bit about the challenges and barriers? What are some of the biggest challenges and barriers that you're facing in the work that you do?
I think some of the biggest challenges or barriers that we have is just a lack of knowledge and education surrounding the blind and visually impaired community and in terms of their capabilities and, what individuals are able to do. I think sometimes people, or when you hear the word blind, there's a certain aspect that comes to mind and assuming that, one is the same and, everyone's vision is different. And so just understanding that everyone has different capabilities and just because someone is blind does not mean that they can't do the job just as well, if not better, as someone who is fully sighted. So I think there's still a lot of education and awareness that needs to be brought to the public.
And I know you've got job placement as a part of the work that you do too. How accommodating are businesses, organizations to receiving those in your clientele?
They are really accommodating. I think that a piece of it is sometimes employers and businesses aren't exactly sure what type of accommodations an individual may need. So that's where our team is able to step in and really help out and help them identify what accommodations would be most helpful. But we've had great success and we've had so many employers that are open and welcoming.
And I can't let you leave without sharing a word about some in-home training and how that's available.
Yes, so we provide an array of services. So we talked about job placement. We also provide vision rehab services, social work services, technology training, and all of our services are provided in person and virtual to accommodate the client.
Well, Deanna, we want to thank you so much for the work that you do and certainly a lot that goes on with vision services. And as we said, January is Braille Awareness Month, and we're glad that we can be able to share a little bit to make the public a little bit more aware. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty, Deanna Calamusa with us here. And if you want more information, you can visit the website, visionsvcb.org, and then also on social media at visionsvcb. Well, we've come to the end of our show today. Definitely want to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewer, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast on Optimum's Channel 67. If you have Verizon Files, that's Channel 2133, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. And of course, you can catch a brand new episode of Open with Rena Valentine on Friday. That about wraps it up for this episode. I'm Daren Jaime. Make sure to keep this channel wide open. We say take care and God bless.